Hey guys, welcome to day 238 of the Bible in a Year plan. Today, we will be reading Ezra 5 through 6, 3 John, and Psalm 95. If you need to read more about this plan, visit the High Quality Gospel website with a link in the description of the episode and the podcast. Please leave a like and follow the podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Now, let's begin with reading Ezra 5. But when the prophets Haggai and Zechariah son of Iddo prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem, in the name of the God of Israel who was over them, Zerubbabel son of Shealtiel and Jeshua son of Jozadak began to rebuild God's house in Jerusalem. The prophets of God were with them, helping them. At that time, Tattenai, the governor of the region west of the Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues came to the Jews and asked, "Who gave you the order to rebuild this temple and finish this structure?" They also asked them, "What are the names of the workers who were constructing this building?" But God was watching over the Jewish elders. These men wouldn't stop them until a report was sent to Darius, so that they could receive written instructions about this matter. This is the text of the letter that Tattenai, the governor of the region west of the Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues, the officials in the region, sent to Darius. They sent him a report written as followed. To King Darius, all greetings. Let it be known to the king that we went to the house of the great God in the province of Judah. It is being built with the cut stones, and its beams are being set in the walls. This work is being done diligently and succeeding through the people's efforts. So he questioned the elders and asked, "Who gave you the order to rebuild this temple and finish this structure?" We also asked them for their names, so that we could write down the names of their leaders for your information. This is the reply they gave us. We are servants of the God of the heavens and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built and finished. But since our ancestors angered the God of the heavens, he handed them over to the king Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon and the Chaldean, who destroyed this temple and deported the people to Babylon. However, in the first year of King Cyrus of Babylon, he issued a decree to rebuild the house of God. He also took from the temple in Babylon the gold and silver articles of God's house that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem and carried them to the temple in Babylon. He released them from the temple in Babylon to a man named Sheshbazzar, the governor by the appointment of King Cyrus. Cyrus told him, "Take these articles, put them in the temple in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be rebuilt on its original site." Then the same Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundation of God's house in Jerusalem. It has been under construction from that time until now, but it has not been completed. So if it pleases the king, let a search of the royal archives in Babylon be conducted to see if it is true that a decree was issued by King Cyrus to rebuild the house of God in Jerusalem. Let the king's decision regarding this matter be sent to us. King Darius gave the order, and they searched in the library of Babylon in the archives. But it was in the fortress of Ecbatana, in the province of Media, that the scroll was found with the record written on it. In the first year of King Cyrus, he issued a decree concerning the house of God in Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt as a place for the offering sacrifices, and let its original foundations be retained. Its height is to be 90 feet, and its width 90 feet, with 3 layers of cut stones and 1 of timber. The cost is to be paid from the royal treasury. The gold and silver articles of God's house that Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and carried to Babylon must also be returned. They are to be brought to the temple in Jerusalem, where they belong, and put into the house of God. Therefore you must stay away from that place. Tattenai, governor of the region of the west of Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and your colleagues, the officials in the region. Leave the construction of the house of God alone. Let the governor and elders of the Jews rebuild this house of God on its original site. I hereby issue a decree concerning what you are to do, so that the elders of the Jews can rebuild the house of God. The cost is to be paid in full to these men out of the royal revenues from the taxes of the region west of the Euphrates River, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, and lambs for the burnt offerings of the God of the heavens, or wheat, salt, wine, and oil, as requested by the priest in Jerusalem, let it be given to them every day without fail, so that they can offer sacrifices of pleasing aroma to the God of the heavens and pray for the life of the king and his sons. I also issue a decree concerning any man who interferes with the directive. Let a beam be torn from his house and raised up. He will be impaled on it, and his house will be made into a garbage dump because of his offense. May the God who caused his name to dwell there overthrow any king or people who dares to harm or interfere with this house of God in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have issued the decree. Let it be carried out diligently. Then Tattenai, governor of the region of the west Euphrates River, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues diligently carried out what the king Darius had decreed. So the Jewish elders continued successfully with the building under the prophesying of Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, son of Iddo. They finished the building according to the command of the God of Israel and the decrees of Cyrus, Darius, and King Artaxerxes of Persia. This house was completed on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. Then the Israelites, including the priests and the Levites and the rest of the exiles, celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of God's house they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, and 400 lambs, as well as 12 male goats as a sin offering for all Israel, one for each Israelite tribe. They also appointed the priests by their divisions and the Levites by their groups to the service of God in Jerusalem, according to what is written in the book of Moses. The exiles observed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. All of the priests and the Levites were ceremonially clean because they had purified themselves. They killed the Passover lamb for themselves, their priestly brothers, and all their exiles. The Israelites who had returned from exile ate it, together with all who had separated themselves from the uncleanliness of the Gentiles of the land, in order to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. They observed the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days, with joy, because the Lord had made them joyful, having changed the Assyrian king's attitude towards them, so that he supported them in the works on the house of the God of Israel. Now we read 3 John. The elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in truth. Dear friend, I pray that you are prospering in every way and are in good health, just as your whole life is going well. For I was very glad when fellow believers came and testified to your fidelity to the truth, how you are walking in truth. I have no greater joy than this, to hear that my children are walking in truth. Dear friend, you are acting faithfully in whatever you do for the brothers and sisters, especially when they are strangers. They have testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on your journey in a manner worthy of God, since they set out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from pagans. Therefore, we ought to support such people, so that we can be co-workers with the truth. I wrote something to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have first place among them, does not receive our authority. This is why, if I come, I will remind him of the works he is doing, slandering us with malicious words, and he is not satisfied with that. He not only refuses to welcome fellow believers, but he even stops those who want to do so and expels them from the church. Dear friend, do not intimidate what is evil, but what is good. The one who does good is of God. The one who does evil has not seen God. Everyone speaks well of Demetrius, even the truth itself, and we also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. I have many things to write to you, but I don't want to write to you with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon, and we will talk face to face. Peace to you. The friends send you greetings. Greet the friends by name. Now we read Psalm 95. Come, let's shout joyfully to the Lord, shout triumphantly to the rock of our salvation. Let's enter his presence with thanksgiving. Let's shout triumphantly to him in song. For the Lord is great, a great king above all gods. The depths of the earth are in his hand, and the mountain peaks are his. The sea is his, he made it. His hands formed the dry land. Come, let's worship and bow down. Let's kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the sheep under his care. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts at the Meribah, as on that day at Massah in the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. They tried me, though they had seen what I did. For 40 years I was disgusted with that generation. I said, they are a people whose hearts go astray. They do not know my ways. So I swore in my anger, they will not enter my rest. On day 237, we finished Zechariah and we completed 2 John. Today, we continue the book of Ezra. Last time, the work of the temple was ceased for a time. Here, we begin with the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, having a huge influence over the leaders, Joshua and Zerubbabel. These two prophets were commanded by God to let the people know that they should follow in his ways, and not like the ways of their ancestors. They encouraged Israel that God desires to come back and restore them. Zechariah even singles out the high priest and ruler as important figures in the reconstruction. Here in Ezra, we see construction continue under the leadership of Joshua and Zerubbabel. Yes, they went against the orders of King Darius. However, God protected them from their adversaries and let the work continue. They have been empowered by God and protected by God. Though the adversaries believed they were able to appeal to the desires of the king researched and found that the Jews were not going to be an issue. He allowed them to build the temple, which is God at work. When the temple was finished, it was dedicated, and they performed the daily duties, sacrifices, and regular festivals commanded by God. God returned to Israel, and joy filled the nation. They had joy in knowing that God was with them, and we can have this joy too. We do not need a temple like they did, but we are just as rebellious. Our rebellion, our sin, cuts us off from God, and without Him, we will not feel the joy in the earth. If we follow in His ways, like the Israelites did, then we will be able to worship Him with love, joy, and gladness. Today, we also read the book of 3 John. This is another short and simple passage of the Bible. However, this book is focused differently than the other letters. The past 2 letters showed us what it means to walk in Christ, being able to prove our faith and display the fruit of the Spirit that dwells within us. In this book, John gives us 3 examples. First, we have Gaius. John says that Gaius treats the other Christians well, and those in the fellowship speak highly of him. He doesn't desire money, and he doesn't desire to preach to earn money. So John says to fully support men like these. Every church should be made of men like this, and the church should support them in turn. Demetrius is another individual that John even has good things to say, and there are plenty of good testimonies about him. And so what this book tells us is that these men are good men, but it also gives us evidence to support that idea. They are very good men because people have good testimonies about them. That's one evidence that you can use to determine if you are a good Christian or not, if you've been following in the ways of God or not. These men have been following Christ very well. People have seen that. People have recognized that. And so they have good testimonies to say about them. There is another person, however, who is not living in the Spirit, and a church can have these people as well. Diotrephes has only been here for himself, and he speaks against authority, teaching whatever he desires, out of wickedness and greed. He refuses to be correctly taught and refuses to repent from his wicked ways. This is a false teacher, and the church is full of them. Even the regular people who do not have an authority position in the church. Regular congregation members can act in this way. They show up to be seen and act wickedly every other time of their lives. They refuse to acknowledge the right paths and continue to live in wickedness for their own personal desires. Here in this book, we see what happens when you obey God and follow in His ways. Your works show it. We also see the opposite. When you live in the world and for your own wickedness, you show lies and deceit. Lastly, in Psalm, we see a psalm praising God. The writer is calling all others to sing joyous songs and praises of God. We should be joyful in the fact that we worship the one true God, the Creator of the world, and we should remember His love and kindness that He bestows on us as His people. Thank you for joining in the reading and understanding of these chapters, and let us all be vigilant in continuing this reading. Please share, like, follow, or whatever you can do to help us reach more people with the Bible reading. Please also check out the High Quality Gospel website for more information and a couple of store items. Thank you, and keep learning.